jumped the curb
Oh,
and went through, hit the pole fell
I see.
into the fruit stand.
The scrub.
Wow.
That's
Get started.
Now, do we have a quorum or one short?
You have 4.
Okay,
Oh, 7, you're good.
okay, we're good. Okay, super.
5, you have 5.
Well, I'm sorry.
You can count Tina, she's the
I
chair.
count
Michelle's-
Tina.
yeah.
I'm not counted. All right, so do we want to go ahead and start introducing ourselves? You want to start?
Sure.
Dan?
Hi, I'm Deanna Balkart. I'm vice chairperson. Jackie Jones, a member of the commission.
Tom O'Brien,
Tina Schimpf, Chair.
Spencer Clark, Canby Public Works.
Tracy Hensley, Canby City Council President and liaison to this commission.
Clint Coleman, traffic safety member.
Gary Bryant, Traffic Safety Committee,
Brianna Adada, I'm a planning liaison for the commission.
Oh, Jen's on there.
Oh, no, you got a-
Jenny?
I think she's still
No.
getting,
Oh, she's still
Oh,
trying
still
to come out,
connecting.
so
yeah.
Jen's-
Connecting to audio. I
Okay,
don't know.
so did everybody get a chance to look over the minutes? From last month? Any discussion or?
are those on Zoom supposed to be on the attendee list?
When I think that you should have got them when I emailed you
They
the
were-
agenda.
They were attached to the note that you sent out,
Yes, so,
but I noticed
When-
my name was not on there.
yeah,
Okay,
Clint will,
I need to
Clint-
get your
yeah,
email
we need to
address, so we'll do a
everything's-
sign in and get everyone's email.
yeah, so we'll have everything updated, so you'll be sure to get those.
It's on the message that Tina sent
I had
out.
forwarded when I did the agenda, because there was some people not on there, I went ahead and forwarded your email so that we would have that.
Sue, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I move that we accept the minutes and approve the minutes of the April 9th, 2025 meeting.
Second that. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Good morning.
Jenny?
Good morning.
morning.
Okay, approved. All right. Citizen input, I know I received an email about someone having some concerns on Holly and between Territorial and Night Bridge. Is that person on Zoom to? It's not looking like it. Okay, so,
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think I finally understand what Tom's saying. The minutes need to be
Need
amended
to show his
name
name.
is
oh,
on that.
gotcha, okay.
as being an attendee. So you
Okay,
need to redo your motion as amended.
okay, I amend my motion. I move that we accept the minutes with the adjustment of your name on the meeting minutes.
Second that.
All in favor?
I,
Okay.
Hi.
Amended and approved. Okay, so there was an email that came in from Jen Gorski. It says, I called the Canby Police Department some months ago with a complaint about drivers speeding down the street in front of my house on North Holly Street between Territorial and Knightsbridge. They responded with a call saying that if I wanted some action about it, from the city, I would need to attend the meeting during the day that's available each month at the city council meeting building. I don't remember what day or time or who to form the complaint with. So I don't know that they responded back, so I will again reach out and see. I think that's the same complaint we've had though, isn't it? Where
It was a different person, but it's the same area.
Same area, right, 10th and 12th, right, it's the same area.
and then one of the things, okay, yeah, and Spencer was good enough to put out a report on Holly speed report. So there's not too much trouble to attach that in that email,
That would be great.
Yeah, this was from 3 years ago. but-
Well, so I'll get to exactly what all this is whenever we want to dive into
Oh.
either the Holly
Yeah, when we
Street
talk about-
or if we want to put it in my liaison report, either one.
Okay. Old business. Revisit speed limit reduction in Dorsey Estates neighborhood.
Yeah, if I could touch on that one.
Yes.
I think it was Spencer and Brianna that put together this draft, isn't that correct?
I think Brianna did all the heavy lifting, but yes.
Thank you, Brianna. I think that we should adopt this language and get this on the books, because you guys went to a good amount of trouble, and we appreciate that very much. And I mean, in the future, if we want to make tweaks to it, we certainly can. But you had given us all a copy of this, and unless anyone has any questions, I would move that we adopt this language.
Any discussion on that?
Was there a second?
I can second it.
Okay, any discussion needed on it, or all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The language is passed.
So this goes to the city council now?
This would now go forward to city council for their approval, on if that's the
Make an ordinance,
criteria to make an ordinance.
Fresh data for 99E and South End Road.
If I could touch on that as well.
Yes.
We've been busy.
I had asked the officer to look into that and provide the information. And then I also copied you on an email that I sent to Matt English at the fire department. Because my impression is from Facebook and, but I think that intersection gets an awful lot of attention. And one thing I thought I'd do just for fun is, how many in here have known someone that's had an accident at that intersection?
That one. And then
Anyone else?
99 and South End.
I mean, it's, I think, of all the traffic safety dangers in our community, I think that one's right near the top in my view, and, I feel strongly enough about it. I think even if the city had to shoulder the cost of the light itself, I think it's well worth it, and,
We can't,
okay,
it's ODOT. The best we can do is lobby for that to happen.
okay,
And I've spoken with Counselor Davis about this in the past. I'd probably have to remind him of our conversation, because this has been a number of months ago, but it was like, my thinking that maybe if City Canby could partner with the Board of County Commissioners, we might have a little more weight with ODOT.
would it be a good starting point for us to make a motion that we pursue a light at that intersection?
You can make a motion to pursue it, but it's the plan on how to get there is what the discussion point here is, I think.
Okay, well, it would certainly make me feel good to start that process by moving that we pursue all avenues for light to be installed at South End Road and 99E.
Jenny has something to say.
Hey,
So hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
So we've talked in the past about Haynes Road being a failed intersection. It's something we consider failed, it's something ODOT considers failed. And a concern of mine is if we address South End, then more people are going to be trying to take Haynes as an alternative potentially, just cut over there instead of having to wait and stop at a light as it backs up. And I've got a lot of concerns about Haynes being the way that it is. So hopefully we're going to see the Walnut Street extension come through in the next year or so before the liquor distribution center is up and running. But I have some major concerns about Haynes going unaddressed as well. So to me, they're almost kind of related, that we might want to swing for the fences and see if we can do something about both. If we can only do one, we can only do one, and South End would be the priority, but I am concerned about what would happen if we only address that. And specific to South End, just to throw it out there, I don't know anyone who's been in an accident there, but I have seen on multiple occasions drivers who aren't familiar with that stretch of 99 slamming on their brakes at the yellow blinking light because they all of a sudden realize it's there and think that it might be telling them to stop. So I've seen a number of near accidents because somebody does something unexpected when they're driving. I've seen that a number of times. So for what that's worth.
Well, I think one of the ways you can address your concern is to amend that motion that we pursue avenues for South End Road and Haynes Road, adding safety measures specifically in pursuit of a stoplight at South End Road and 99 but also looking at safety measures for Haynes and 90.
So that half mile stretch in between the two, that,
Comment regarding South End intersection with 9090. It's been a dangerous intersection for years. Prior to moving to Canby a little over 5.5 years ago, I would travel that road coming to Canby, which is where we did most of our shopping and business, because I lived near John McLaughlin Grade School. So I'm very familiar with the dangers in the intersection. ODOT over the years has been very reluctant to do anything. I would suggest if we're going to partner with Clackamas County, that we also partner with Oregon City. Because if you think about where the traffic is coming from, it's all originating in Oregon City. It's their residents that are getting killed as well as ours. So I think they have a bird in the hunt, so to speak. The problem, one of the problems is that when you are heading from 99 North onto South End, you have, fortunately now, a very limited about 30 feet of side turn lane. That was put in about 12 years ago at my request. Because up till then, that was all dirt and people parked there to go fishing. And ODOT was reviewing that intersection at the time, and I attended their meeting. The first individual I spoke to was about 31 years of age and totally blew it off. The second individual was a bit older and he listened. And so when they redid that intersection and put that flashing light in, is when they put that right turn lane extension. But they cannot bring it any closer to the bridge over Beaver Creek. There's a very short distance between the edge of the bridge and the intersection. So the thing that makes it most dangerous is that oftentimes even, I have noticed people who are intending to turn onto South End going north on 99 fail to put on a turn signal, thereby alerting people behind them who have just gone through a significant verge issue up the hill a little. They're speeding, trying to get ahead of each other, and they don't notice because no one's turned their turn signal on. So that's part of the problem. Coming out, yes, what was described earlier, 3 cars coming out instead of 2 turning in front of you. We have people, believe it or not, who do not like to obey traffic laws.
imagine that.
Enough said.
And signals are optional now on.
Yeah.
I don't know why ODOT spends so much money on signage, because it's ignored.
Yeah, it really is.
Hit the nail on the head, but how do we get these people to, it's human nature, I gotta be. We have the whole world against us here, trying to get people to signal their intentions, and I see it day in and day out myself, and it's just.
I think the main point is to explain to the Oregon City Commission that this is their residents that are getting hammered.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
to
yeah, we
involve
could
them,
certainly
because
add that.
the more
I know
we,
Denise would listen very carefully.
yeah.
She's a very caring individual.
So the parties interested would be,
The OC Commission, BCC, and our city council.
okay. Is there a second for my motion to pursue that?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Motion passed. Okay, new business, I kind of went over that in the letter that I wrote, or that I read. Okay, anybody wanna talk about that anymore? I mean, we have study going on that currently, or we're just,
So, I went back and looked through all the studies that I still have records of, on my computer. And the first one that I had done for Holly Street was up at 12th, and that was in, was it October of 22. And this is first page on the packet that I put in front of everybody is kind of the summary page of both directions. So it's not broken down into anything. It's just the very, very top view. You can look and see that max speed that it collected in a 7-day period was almost 60 miles an hour at
wow.
9:45 in the morning.
Jeez.
The speed limit is 25, but the 85th percentile speed of what most people are doing on that is 32. And I think that kind of as we've talked as a group before on road designs on, I can't remember if it was Bob or Eric that had shared that one video with us the one time on kind of the engineering of roads and what you feel what the road speed should be as opposed to what the sign actually says. So majority of people, it looks like the speed limit is around 30 to 32. And so this doesn't break down exactly how many people are going, 50, 45 or anything like that. But it does give you the average daily trips of 3,330 for that time in 22. And so then the next couple of pages, and actually here, Jenny, I'm sorry, let me share my screen so that you can follow along with us. Share screen.
I'm taking notes, but I wouldn't be opposed to seeing it.
Funny if I wonder if on these 3 reports, if that max speeder is the same person.
But look at the increase in traffic though, the
Yeah.
volumes.
Yeah.
Much increase, there's a whole lot more progress coming in, rerouting from territorial, the shortcut they just discovered.
In addition, coming up as the adult community center moves to the corner of Holly and Territorial,
More traffic.
you're going to have a major increase in volume at certain times of the day. So I think as we move forward, we need to consider
Probably won't be going
even
59 miles
additional.
an hour.
And part of the conversation too is like when we're looking at the data, we're usually saying, oh, we're only seeing a couple outliers who are way out there on any given street. But the problem is they cause real big problems, right? It's not like you can have somebody going down the 25 or 35 mile an hour road at 65 and it's not a real danger. So just because we don't have 500 people a day doing it doesn't mean that the couple people who are doing it couldn't cause some real problems.
I would agree. I don't know, I was kind of hoping that Officer Davis was here, kind of get his thoughts on some of these, on kind of what the department's kind of stance is for a lot of this, because of these, so I ended up doing 4 different studies. One was in October of 22, one in February of 24, one in February of 25, and then at the request of the citizens last month, all of those studies were done up at 12th. This one was done down in between 9th and 10th. So I picked a different location, and the summary page for all the data is very similar, diving down through a lot of stuff. It's all very similar, but it's about 2% of the traffic that is driving on that street is doing 10 miles an hour or more than the speed limit. So this is where it really kind of comes down for kind of, I think, a group discussion and decision on what because I don't think that anyone is under the impression that we can solve all speeding, period.
No,
So what is the acceptable level that we
yeah.
can stomach? And that's a tough conversation to have, because I know if I lived there,
Yeah.
I think all of us would say we want absolutely no speeding, but realistically, what is a normal kind of a acceptable standard? And so I don't know if 2%, if that is high or low for a specific street that is going 10 or more over the speed limit.
Well, if I can add a couple things, I think it's terrific, the reports that you've provided.
Yes.
And I think a couple of the challenges specifically for that stretch of North Holly and according to my calculations from that intersection at Knightsbridge Road and Holly to Territorial and Holly is approximately a half of a mile. And the midway point is right around 10. And one of the challenges, especially for people that want to cross and get their mail or just crosses, the lack of sidewalks and lack of crosswalks. And but going forward, where you're doing all that great work on 10th, and as you get completed there with all the new homes on Pine, that likely, when that gets finished, is going to increase speeds. And then from the other direction, up behind the Catholic Church and the Northwood Estates Phase 4, as it gets built out, that's gonna send more traffic into the area. And so it's not just, in my view, a speeding issue on Holly. It's that a lot of the people that are coming to that intersection, whether it be on 9th or 10th, that might be unfamiliar or distracted. It's a real hazard because they pull out in front of the people coming down Holly. And one of the things that I've noticed, I try to get ideas when I go around to other communities and see, what other communities are doing. And Charbonneau is a good example of a community that doesn't have sidewalks. And I noticed periodically you'll see a stop if there's a pedestrian in the area, you have to stop. And that seems like common sense, but they have those periodically. So I think that might be a consideration. Obviously, I think digital speed signs, one on each side, would be a consideration, because again, addition to the Pine developments and the Northwoods developments, as you get down Holly heading toward the ferry, more developments are going to be coming online. And so in the future, I think it's going to become more difficult if you're on 9th or 10 to turn onto Holly, cross traffic. And I think when I think back of all the intersections where we've lobbied and recommended four-way stops, in my years on the traffic safety, there's never been an instance where we've recommended that one be taken out. And so some of those stop signs that we've lobbied for, 10th and Ivy, I think that's proven to be a good one. Another one is a more controversial one, was North Redwood and Territorial. I think you benefit from that one, don't you, Spencer?
It depends on the day. Depends on who's driving on the other side, but yeah.
And then another one is over there by American Steel Township and Sequoia, that didn't used to have a four-way stop. And then another one kind of behind the post office, Second and Cedar, and that didn't as well. And so these people that live on that street especially live with this issue every day. And I think doing nothing is not a good option. And I think, signage, there's just so much signage, it's hard to know what works and what doesn't. If you had to speculate, how long do you think it'll be before there are the presence of sidewalks in that 9th and 10th area?
Currently, I don't know that it is on any mid-range plan, but I know it is something that has been brought up a lot more recently, especially with the expansions going out Holly, north of Territorial. So it is a conversation piece that has come up. I think that with some support from different committees, that it could be something that does eventually get put onto a 5-year CIP kind of project to look forward to. I know I personally, even though it's not currently on any official list, I've got it in the back of my head that that's gonna be a project that I would like to see done similar to what we're doing on 10th and what was done on Maple and Locust.
Now, if we were to get, kind of the pulse of the neighborhood along there, and, because in my own opinion, if it were just entirely up to me, I would recommend, even without sidewalks, a 4-way stop at 10th and Holly. But would it be valuable to reach out to the neighborhood and, I mean, they're there on the ground and see.
I think it would, because I know last week I keep saying last week, it was a month ago, but last month, one of the citizens had expressed concerns over a 4-way stop there because I believe that they lived at the corner.
And that's at about the midway point of, yeah.
But they were concerned over the starting and stopping sounds that would,
It's loud.
it's loud for the starting and stopping. And so, one neighbor, and that's where I tried to be very careful on not trying to upset and cause a commotion amongst neighbors on.
Yeah, kind of like Birch and the.
Yep.
bumps, you know.
And so,
Extra
you know,
bumps.
where some people wanted them, some people didn't, and then,
Yeah.
so it's,
Yes, it's one of those things where is having the traffic have to stop and or not be speeding through there more beneficial than having to hear.
starting and stopping.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
And I will say, before I would say, yes, we can go throw stop signs up, I would need to contact, one of the traffic engineers and have them probably do a full, traffic study.
Yeah.
To make sure that we do have at least close to equal flows of traffic, whereas, for a lot of the other intersections, I think that I can't remember if we did full studies on those. I remember I was the one that went and put the signs up. I wasn't the one making the decision for those ones, so.
Well, there's clearly an imbalance at Territorial and North Redmond. 'Cause
Yes.
there's way more cars on Territorial, but then you could really say that Ivy and 10th should be a similar study to Holly and 10th.
I would think so.
And,
It's, but how long ago was that one? That was quite a few, was that like
That was quite a
7,
few
8
years
years
ago.
ago? So I mean, those traffic patterns have probably
Yeah.
changed a little bit. And I think that you're right with the Northwoods, because I think at that time, I don't know if 10th went through with Northwoods.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so now that that's turned into a 4-way and that's a thoroughfare through there, I mean, I do think that it's warranted to look at doing a traffic study at some of those intersections.
On 10th Street, I think.
Yeah, I think it would,
Jenny?
go ahead. I was gonna say, it might be valuable to do Holly and 10th and Ivy at 10th at the same time, just because if we change one and not the other, then people are gonna reroute differently. My concern with Holly just in general is that it really is a pretty main thoroughfare through Canby, and it's used even more heavily by people who don't live here, people who might be cutting off of 99 via Territorial and coming down Holly, or who might be coming from downtown or off of Knightsbridge and heading up towards Territorial. I feel like we need to do something about that stretch. If it is the stop signs, which I personally would support, I do like adding some digital signs and potentially some marked sidewalks, but I think it's important to focus on Holly and Ivy on those stretches, because that really sets the tone for the whole core part of the city. If people are allowed to keep just flying through there, then it kind of becomes the cultural norm. People see that happening, they do it themselves, they get used to it. And the longer that goes on, as traffic gets more heavy, with more people looking at it as a cut through and more development happening, or more people trying to avoid 99, then I have concerns that the longer it goes on, then the worse it gets and the harder it is to kind of reel back in.
I like to look at the origin of where the traffic is coming from. When you do your next analysis, can we identify, are these people who are crossing on the ferry and they're maybe late or behind because they've been waiting for the ferry, they're in a hurry to get to something that's late, they're late for? Or is the traffic generated in the neighborhood and these are people who are simply in a hurry all the time? I think it's important to understand what causes the issue that we're studying.
I would agree, it would, because when they do these studies, it's not like they have cameras set up throughout and then they identify each car where it's been. It's more so of just how many cars cross this point at a given time. And so I don't know.
So could we look at Holly and Territorial, Spencer, specifically? Because I feel like that's a good representation of who's going where. I bet the turn Holly onto Territorial and Territorial onto Holly are much, much more heavily represented than anybody who's coming from further north from the ferry or further west from those neighborhoods. It's not exactly like the silver bullet or anything, but I feel like, yeah, that's wherever they may be coming from, that is really where everything's happening.
I would agree. I don't know what the ferry's daily trips are. I could possibly try to find somebody at the county that could maybe get me some rough ideas on that. Personally, my opinion is, with growing up in this town, living in this town and working in this town, is that the town was, 15 years ago, we were half this size. And so now I think a lot of this is just more traffic for all of the neighborhoods of more people, period. And I think that if I personally lived anywhere from Holly, north of 10th, all the way over to Clint's house, if I was coming from Wilsonville, I would come up Knightsbridge to Holly to Territorial. If I was coming from Wilsonville to go over to the Willow Creek neighborhood, that's the route that I would take. And I think that most people that live in Canby know that that's the route that they would take as well.
Do you know, if I can add one more thing, when they're putting in the senior center there at the church, is there a traffic study being done?
Ooh, that I don't know if there was for that.
Would that benefit to piggyback that traffic study with that?
That would be probably.
They're not.
Okay. I think it was probably because it's close to a similar use between it being the church and the senior center, that it's they're considering comparable. Is that true?
I asked about it too, but it was more that the self-reported use numbers of the people who use the facility was pretty low, and that was determined to not have enough of an impact on that area to warrant asking for a traffic study.
How long has Burke Street had the speed bumps?
A long time.
Bob Backstrom.
Over 10 years,
I've been here 10 years. They were there when I moved in.
so 15.
And did it have any difference other than upset neighbors?
It really reduced the quantity of cars in the street,
Yeah.
big time.
Mhm.
So I don't want to encourage speed bumps, but there is a private residence on, that has their own 25-mile-per-hour sign.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh,
It's not enforceable, but it's.
And because we talked about signage, nobody wants to sign in their yard. I went by, hey, this 25-mile-per-hour sign is on private property. Good for you.
One thing that I found to be effective when I was in Oregon City is if neighbors, enough of them, such as we had last month appear here, they can share a little of their own personal time with their cell phone cameras. And it's amazing the effect that has on motorists who see someone there about to capture. They don't know what you're capturing, whether it's just their license plate and their picture, or whether you have some device that can look at their speed. The brakes go So sometimes just a suggestion to the neighbors that, you know, you wanna solve it. And if it is your local people, who are they?
I wonder how often the Canby Police Department's in that area.
I don't know. I do know that when Officer Miller was the liaison, anytime Holly Street got brought up, we would do a study, and then I would kind of give him the high points of
Yeah.
what time of day we had the most influx of excessive speeding, not just, you know, the 30 miles an hour, but where there was consistent people doing, you know, 35, 40 or higher. And I think his comment was, it was like fish in a barrel. And then it was very drastic, because that is actually my route to get home as well. Just driving that after he spent a couple of days out there, it was very different just driving on the road.
Noticeable change. People
Yes.
saw that he was there,
Yep.
and changed their behavior.
Yeah,
And again, the local residents could do that monitoring.
and
They're noticing it anyway.
yes,
They can work down the time of day.
yeah.
So what do you, I mean, we've seen traffic studies come through before and we've overridden them, because I think one of the traffic studies didn't warrant a four-way stop at North Redwood and Territorial, and we overrode that. So I mean, what do you think is the best course of action? Is it to pull the neighbors and?
For me, I would feel, I think that there is enough traffic, and the other thing is it's not only off of traffic volumes for whether or not a stop sign needs to be installed, it also does take into effect the crashes. So if we can have information for 5 years on how many crashes and accidents are there, and what type of accidents, I mean, we had,
Cars on their sides.
I mean, we had rollovers
Yeah.
there, so I feel like that is gonna
Jeez.
throw a little bit more weight into it as well.
And then one of the things that could help too, sorry, to interrupt, but, is, you know, we've got those counters for, Holly. And so where Jenny mentioned 9th and 10th, we could do a count measure on 9th and 10th. That would be, I gotta believe that the volume on 10th has gotta be considerably higher than 9th, but that's speculation on
Yeah.
my part.
Some, I used to live on 9th and Holly, and it wasn't a high volume, but this was 6 years or 8 years ago. But there wasn't a high volume of it, but it was people going from Ivy to Holly, then Holly, the stop signs, they were taking off like they were on a drag strip.
And I will say that I was one of the ones, not the drag strip part. I would, when I was,
You're one of the ones that.
I would go up Ivy, turn at 9th, and then go north once I got to Holly, because it saved me a stop sign.
Yeah, that's right, that is a shortcut.
It became a shortcut because if I turn here, I don't have to go up and stop twice, I just stop once.
Why not just go with Holly?
The reason why not going up Holly is because I was coming from the south side of town, and so I was already on Ivy crossing.
Already on Ivy.
But
And
even
so-
taking that that turn,
Holly was
it
across.
slowed you down because you can't be going 57 miles an hour
No,
to
I
take
was
that
not.
turn.
No.
So.
There was a time too, there's like, there was, when I was living there was a cement truck that ran that stop sign.
Yep.
And crashed into a car that was coming down Holly.
Mm.
I never found out how that person came out of that, it didn't look good.
No.
But
But-
that's because Tim never trimmed his tree, I know they see the sign.
What do you think
Feel
is
about
the
after that.
next steps? What if we were to request from the officer crash data for 9th and 10th over the last 5 years? And then if we were to ask Spencer if he would do a count of the number of cars on 9th and 10th. And then we continue that on, would that be good in everyone's view?
If it wouldn't be a huge list, I'd say even if the traffic study people only might be most interested in the last 5 years, it might be an interesting exercise to see what the counts are if we go out a few years more and say what happened at 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, you know, just a few more, because it might be significant. And sometimes it's worth saying, we know 5 is the typical window, but expand it just a little bit, and here we've got this too. Because I do wonder how much the trends were impacted by the pandemic, because for a few years there were a lot of people who were primarily working from home. For, you know, people who have office jobs, if they could work from home, a lot of people did, and I'm sure that that impacted the volume of vehicles on the road, and potentially with that maybe the volume of accidents as well.
So Tracy, do we need a motion, you think, to pursue Spencer's counts and?
It wouldn't hurt to have it codified, but you guys have decided, so yeah.
Okay, do those
I
two
mean, paper
measures
trails are
sound
good,
good?
always a good thing.
That all sound good to everyone to pursue those measures?
Yes.
Definitely.
So I move that we reach out to the Canby PD and request crash data for those 2 intersections, 9th and 10th on North Holly over the last 5 and 10 years. And then we
Big
request
one, 5 or 10.
up to 10 years. And then we request Spencer do a traffic count for 9th and 10th, so we can analyze those next time.
I second that.
Does that give you enough time, Spencer?
I think I can get that done.
Okay, Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hi. Could we get a second motion or potentially amend that to include Ivy and 10th? Or is that, I don't know if you'd want it together or if you'd rather do them separately at another time.
Ivy and 10th has a stop sign, it's had it for years.
Okay, so volume wise, that would be something we would leave potentially to a traffic study.
Yes, I would think so.
Okay, great.
And then if I could add one more thing, it was under new business, and it was a gentleman that was here last time, and he lived on Locust, and he was concerned about as he came up to Territorial, the visibility. And my solution there was, again, asking Spencer, if you were at that intersection, Territorial and Locust, if you feel like there's adequate striping, to allow, because I think he was concerned about pulling up to turn on the Territorial, and if vehicles are parked a certain way, the visibility is not very good.
Yes, and I think it was also too, why my computer is all of a sudden freezing. I think it
You said something
was
about
trying to turn onto the street with the new neighborhood, and of course this street view doesn't show it, but with the bump out and the cut in parking that was in because of the trees.
Okay.
He feels it's very tight for trying to turn and go down there, and I think his main request was to restrict parking as close as you can to the intersection, or maybe further from the intersection. You know, I think
Does he live north or south of Territorial?
north of Territorial.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot going on that street, and it is relatively narrow for.
He talked about bump out was what threw me off, and the bump out is on the other direction, on the south side of Territorial. There's a tree, a huge tree. There's also a utility pole,
Yes.
and the visibility is very poor unless you stop at the stop line.
Yes.
If you go beyond the stop line.
You can't see. Yeah.
So he said something about a bump out.
So what it is there's a bump out in the curb. You can't really see it because of the shadows. But if you can kind of see right here, see how the sidewalk and the curb line jog in. Where he says,
again.
right here, the street is narrower. So what I'm saying, the street is narrower. So when I'm saying bump out, it's bumped in actually more so. So it's just a narrower cross section, but it doesn't have any parking restrictions.
And that's he was asking for is if we could restrict parking so that it didn't further restrict the visibility.
Wasn't his issue getting out onto territorial?
That was my understanding.
I think it was more so of turning onto Locust.
Oh,
I misunderstood.
me too.
So in that area right there where those trees are, he's wanting no parking right along there.
I think he's wanting it on both sides of the
Here's,
street.
in the minutes that we approved, Canby citizen who lives on Northeast Locust Street shared concerns relative to the difficulty pulling onto Northeast Territorial. Increased traffic due to development, cars parking near bump outs in the area that hinder visibility at intersections.
Is there a bump out on the opposite side of Locust? But this image is from 2013.
Imagine you'd have a better idea where he lives.
Well, and actually, in all honesty, he does not live in that neighborhood. His parents live in that neighborhood, and then he has a business down that street.
Okay,
So I think it was more so of him trying to get to his family's house as well as getting vehicles to his
do
nursery.
they need to go back and revise and reapprove the agenda, the minutes from last month?
I'll take that under consideration.
But I think just trying to, I think both ways of trying to get to the core of the issue is the conversation that I had with Mr. Sidnett was the parking on Locust Street as well as visibility on Territorial. And so is there any discussion from the group
Can you
on,
pan out a little bit so we can get an idea of what entering onto Territorial from that north direction is?
The other thing that's quite different is that corner has a home on it.
yeah, and so these pictures that are on here don't represent what's actually there anymore because this is now a subdivision with houses, and
Correct.
sidewalk and everything else.
Yeah.
Which is kind of strange. You would think that they would have updated this one.
That's, yeah, because it's been up, the neighborhood's been updated quite a while, so
Yeah.
right, this has to be really old, what is,
It says May of
So
19.
19, so,
oh geez, another name.
So I'm sorry, Tom, did you want me to go on to,
No, I was hoping that we could just see what the current situation is, but with this old
Yeah.
view,
Yeah, you're not
Okay,
gonna see
so-
accurate.
yeah.
we'll have to visually go down and inspect.
Mhm.
And then in his business, does he pull trailers? Is that?
He does.
Oh, okay, so that adds a wrinkle too.
Yeah.
So my car's parked for truck and just bring it like turn.
Yeah. Yeah, so that I think is his main concern is just how narrow it is there at the intersection before the curb and the sidewalk widen out once they get past all of those trees.
Can we make a motion that we can keep the curb there? Would that help?
I mean, you can make any motion you want, I think,
I don't think
I
that-
think before, maybe have, because I'm in agreement with Jenny, on a lot of things as far as removing parking, for citizens that have had it for a long time. I
Yeah, it's
don't
not
think,
very nice.
it's not the best practice to just one day go out and just take away their parking. But to maybe go out, have the conversation,
Mhm.
and my apology, I was planning on trying to get out there to get actual measurements of where things were. I didn't make it out there this week to do.
Hey, I didn't either. Don't feel bad. Leave me alone.
Maybe we could table that one until next time and that'll give us all each a chance to go out there and take a look.
If everyone had a chance to go drive it, and at the next meeting, I will try to come back with a little bit better layout. Seems how Google didn't help us on this one. But just trying to come up with a layout, kind of what the parameters and what a recommendation would be.
And then if I could throw in one.
And just to chime in on the parking thing, in general, I am opposed to it in more dense areas this is going to be R1. These people have lots of driveway space. They have lots of options. So I don't have anywhere near as much concern about taking away a stretch of 3 or 4 cars from a street like this in this neighborhood than I would from, say, closer to downtown or southeast or something, for what that's worth.
And so one of the things that might help us next month would be to know the dimensional width of focused outlets at those various points where the bump out is, as well as the parking strip. I said, he's trying to pull trailers out of there.
Yeah,
It's,
And you would expect in the future, as Maple gets more improvements, there likely be a 4-way stop at Maple and Territorial, wouldn't you? Is that also from Territorial and Holly to Territorial and Maple is also a half of a mile? And with all the increased development and activity and that new church that is quite busy, if you're on Maple and you want to turn across traffic onto Territorial at a good many times of the day, I gotta believe it's very similar to North Redwood before the 4-way stop comes in, and just more challenging, and especially for pedestrians, because once that intersection gets a good deal of improvements, then maybe eligible for crosswalks.
I think that we're wanting to fix the ADA ramps to get the crosswalks in.
Yeah.
That's one of our current priorities.
Okay.
I think that there is definitely going to be something done at that intersection, especially, if the urban growth boundary expansion happens
Sure.
and some of those other fields out Maple's going to kind of be like Holly, where it's kind of one of the main roads
Okay.
existing going in and out of, I don't know that the immediate fix would be a 4-way stop, just because, at certain times of the day, this 4-way stop out here is backed up all the way to the apartments, almost to Pine, where it's bumper to bumper on Territorial all the way almost to Pine. So I don't know that putting a 4-way stop at Maple is the answer.
That doesn't sound good to me, as I've experienced what you're talking about, 'cause I live off of Redwood.
And so,
4 o'clock in the
but,
afternoon, you're not.
but I do agree that there will need to be something done there as traffic does increase.
Thank you very much.
one of the issues at that particular intersection is the curvature of the road on Territorial, particularly for people coming from like the country club or that area, and where all the new development is. And, I don't know that a flashing light would be of any assistance there to warn people on Territorial, but it is poor sightline.
It is.
Do you see the need as the development on the north side happens, there's a lot of houses coming on. Will we ever have like a signal light on Territorial, do you think,
I would think that,
eventually?
yes, but if you think about how many houses are in between 10th and Territorial, and then how much ground there is from Territorial up to the edge of the river or wherever the growth boundary goes, you're gonna have more houses.
Lot of
And so
houses.
I definitely could see light going in at
Like
that point.
at some point.
Sorry about this.
Clint brought up an interesting subject about the Charbonneau and the warning signs for crosswalk. Because I don't travel through Charbonneau that much, but I notice when I do go in there, I'll see the stop sign and I really start to slow down, think, oh, there's a stop sign. Then I realize, no, it's just for a crosswalk, but it's sort of like an eye opener.
Yeah, it's a attention getter.
I know it's its own community and everything over there, but we're similar. When you think about our traffic in Maple, Holly, and like that, it's kind of interesting to think that it just get your attention.
Is it similar to the crosswalks on Ivy or down by school? By the
Yeah,
adult
when you're
center?
warning of the crosswalk.
Because I feel like that definitely slows people down because of that crosswalk.
Well, if you drive through there, you'll just see there's no sidewalks. And, you'll see those periodically, and there's like a stripe that goes halfway out into the road, almost like a mini crosswalk. And it just really gets your attention and you recognize that, if someone is crossing, you best stop.
But you look for it, that's
Yeah.
the thing, you come up there, oh, might be somebody out here. Well, like on the railroad,
Oh, down by
walkway.
Eco Park.
Yeah,
walking
and then
around.
people optioning, I guess
Yes.
I'm pointing up this way, but they have the option of pushing the button and lights come on. I don't know, just, something that gets into your mind. Going up there in
Yeah.
cyberspace to see what comes back.
See what comes back.
I'm not saying no.
Let's see, so let's do city staff reports. We don't have any.
All right, so I finally have a tentative date from the county for the Knightsbridge closure. As of right now, they are talking a June 16th closure date. I'm still waiting for a confirmation for a pre-construction meeting to attend to kind of get a timeline from the contractor and the county, but as of right now, it is looking like April 16th is when they are, or sorry, June 16th is when the planned closure will happen.
So what are they gonna do about traffic? This is gonna be insane.
This is going to be insane. They have provided a traffic control plan. It's not a great one, but I can't really come up with anything better for it, is kind of the biggest problem.
Barlow Road's gonna be nuts.
Barlow Road is
It's
going to
nuts
be,
anyway, under ideal conditions. Go down there and try to commute hour.
yeah, and
Get a
so,
train thrown into the mix and you're gonna have bigger problems out.
yeah, so just kind of, if everyone can post it onto the Facebook page or wherever, is that anyone trying to get to the north side of town, just, or anywhere in town, is
Plan a little longer.
Barlow Road is going to experience longer delays, Aurora is going to experience
Oh,
longer
yeah.
delays.
Yeah,
I mean, everyone's going to be experiencing longer delays because this is still planned to be a probably 4 to 6 month project of a hard closure, so.
I know we talked Candy Ferry and the traffic coming from that, but I can't imagine anybody using it as a fast commute, no matter what. I mean, it's there.
If Knightsbridge is closed, I could see some people using it, so.
yeah. So, but the thing is, if you take the ferry, you've already resigned yourself to taking a relaxing way home, because it's not a fast thing. So at that point, it's just kind of, you know,
That's why
better than sitting in traffic because you're moving slowly.
That's why you speed down Holly, because you lost all that time in the ferry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I know right now McKay Road's closed until October. So a lot of people are having to take Shampooey that go
Mhm.
that way, so it's gonna be ugly.
What's close till October?
McKay Road, there's portions of McKay Road going towards Newburgh and McMinnville from Aurora area. So a lot of people are going Knightsbridge to take Shampooey.
Is that like going down to Butteville?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the way I go.
yeah.
Okay.
So, I got that one. 10th Avenue is going in under construction. They're still working on getting the sewer line in. They were, I think, a little ambitious on trying to, with their schedule, thinking that they were gonna go a little faster. Mostly because due to the ground condition, there's a lot of utilities and big boulders that would take up the whole space in the middle of the room. So, but that project is actually still, even though it's a little behind schedule, it's still going well. Don't have too much of an update for South Ivy. The Walnut Street, the first phase of the Walnut Street went out to bid. And we had first reading on the last week's council meeting for the sewer line to be installed, crossing underneath 99, they're boring under the highway, and then going down and tying into the neighborhood of Teakwood. Depending on what else is, I think that's all I have.
Is the South Ivy one on On schedule?
Yes, South Ivy is still on schedule,
And what was the estimated completion date?
October. Right now, everyone's saying we're gonna be done in October, so we'll see who actually is gonna make.
It
their
feels like
deadline.
it's moving painfully
Yeah.
I
slow.
have a question for Spencer.
Yeah.
Isn't there, or Tracy, isn't there a little micro website for the Walnut Street extension? I thought I heard that at a meeting.
I think that they were asking for one, but I don't know.
I don't know if they have it separate, I think it's just on the city website.
Yeah.
I think. I'll have to look at that.
Is that everything for you?
That is everything for me.
Okay, city planning,
Really?
Brianna?
Really the only update I have is Grocery Outlet did submit for their business license, so they're moving right along. They need to make a few, site changes, some ADA upgrades, kind of minor, but it needs to be done, so they're still moving right along. I don't have an exact date for them, but they are anxious to get open. It's a kind of youngish couple with a really cute toddler, if anyone was wondering. It's fun when they come into the office. So that's really the only news I have. Otherwise, we're working on comp plan updates and budget stuff. So I can answer any questions if there is any.
Any new developments that we haven't maybe talked about?
No, not really. Planning Commission has been canceled. I think the last two sessions, I think, were canceled because we didn't have any projects to review. So Dahlia Glen is still, that's a subdivision north of Territorial, that's still going. But no big new applications have come in the past few weeks, no.
Thank you very much.
What about the timeline for the memory care facility at 13th and Ivy? Have they said anything lately?
No, they still haven't submitted. They came in for a second pre-app months ago, but I haven't seen any actual applications come in. I've had like pretty scant correspondence with those folks, so I'm still not sure if they're actually going to come back in or not.
Okay, thank you.
I think they will, I just.
Okay, Tracy?
I don't really have anything, Spencer covered the contract, so if you have questions, we have the budget starting this week, so tomorrow's the first budget meeting, if anyone is interested in watching that. That could be exciting.
Serial meetings. Serial meetings.
Serial meeting?
Good to know.
Thank you for
You're welcome.
reminding me. I did tell him I was gonna talk about that, but then I have had a rough few weeks. No, I do want to warn you all and caution you extremely. When you guys are emailing, when the minutes come out, don't reply all and talk about the things, because you're having a meeting and it's against the law. So don't, oh, thanks for this, Clint. Oh, I like this idea. Don't do any of that, because it's considered a public meeting and it's, or a serial meeting. If you talk to Jackie and then Jackie talks to Tom, we can't do that. And there was a training, Jackie went to the training, so the ethics commission is gonna be like cracking down on that, and it's a $1,000 fine, so you don't wanna do
But
that.
it's okay, like when I'm preparing the minutes, to put everybody on there.
Yes, you may send out the minutes broadcast, just nobody reply all. If you have a direct question to Clint, you can ask Clint something. If you say, I have an amendment to these, do not reply all though.
Okay. Good to
That's
know.
that, a reply all button is your enemy. Thank you for reminding
You're
me,
welcome.
I totally spaced that, it was pretty important too.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've had a rough few weeks, so I apologize.
Okay, Deanna?
I have concern with stuff that I've seen on social media. There's been talk and, I haven't witnessed it myself, but apparently on North Maple Street, there's been street racing happening. And I wouldn't be surprised just because there is a long stretch on North Maple Street by Maple Street Park where there's no stop signs in between. So just wanted to kind of make people aware of that. And then last week, I drove by the Southwest Grant, Southwest Third, going out to dinner, went that way. and there's still junk at that property. Is anything happening with that?
Which one?
On that corner lot, Third and Grant, Jenny, you wanna
Yeah,
touch
over
on that?
by Jenny's area,
Over by
it
her
goes there.
Anything going on with that lot?
Not that I'm aware of. I've got the same neighbor who had filed to get the abandoned cars removed, who is working on contacting the city about asking for them to do the same with the junk. The junk's been there even longer, but it was something that she was working on, so I was kind of letting her carry the torch on it for now.
Okay.
But yeah, because it blocks visibility. It's a eyesore too, but more concerning is not being able to see with all of the pedestrian and vehicle traffic.
Sorry, Jimmy.
Anything else?
That's it for now.
Okay.
You're next.
Gary?
Can't come up with any kind of updates or anything that I've been concerned about. I think we all covered all this information as far as Birch Street and its speed bumps and Holly and its speeding. I think that, I know I'm personally concerned with that myself, but sorry, nothing else to add.
Clint?
No, I'm pretty much exhausted.
Jenny? You have anything?
I don't know. No, not right now.
Okay, Jackie?
I only have concerns because, you know, I'm from my neighborhood, I go walk on my lunch hour sometimes at South, and then you go down Southwest 13th and then South First, still an issue trying to get across the street on the crosswalk. So I might check with the county PD, maybe they can do a crosswalk sting, because it's crazy to have 5 cars go by and then you finally have to like.
Well, if I could add to that, it seemed like there was discussion that as South Ivy got completed, that flashing the cross person sign was gonna shift over to 13th and First. Is that still on the?
I believe it still is, yeah.
I think that'll really help, especially also when the sun's coming down and you're kind of, there's another visual. But- And then another thing, I had to call code enforcement about 3 times during the last month, because people park their cars in front of our house for a week and a half, 2 weeks at a time. This last time was the most annoying. Because somebody had their car for sale straight up in front of my house, and people come to your house thinking you're selling it, they block my driveway.
Oh, geez.
Should sell
Yeah.
Sure.
No, it's one for all my things.
Yeah, so it's kind of annoying, especially when you have a grandkid trying to park, actually at the same time, someone parked in front of my driveway, he couldn't pull in because they wouldn't move, so.
Oh,
It was just so annoying.
There's something brought up with my social group with the hot rod guys here in town. On Holly, one of the residents, he's an old guy and he has a hard time walking across the street to his mailbox.
Yeah, we heard from him last
Yeah.
time.
Oh, all right, that was it.
Oh, yeah, he was
gets-
here.
Yeah, he gets into his rig and he backs out and gets, okay, so there's another
Yeah, he was here
nail
last
in the
month.
coffin for Holly.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that's all I have, obviously speeding is always an issue.
Yes.
I would say that for me, the truck route signs on Ivy Street, I just feel like we need something a little more robust so that people coming.
I know we added signs, was that 2 years ago, directing trucks to turn onto Second Avenue and not go up to 99 itself. I don't know, with all the construction, sometimes the contractor has those corners really tight to where, I mean, I don't see how, it's tighter turning on the Second as it's going up. But no, I do agree that
It's almost like if that was flashing or something, like something that just drew a little more attention. Maybe it's after the construction is done, but I just feel like that seems to be a big thing where there, you know, if that turn lane of people turning onto Ivy.
Where's the placement
Well,
correct?
They
I think we
supposedly
should-
have a sign on Ivy prior to 99 to turn right on.
Yeah, it's
I
there,
think
but
we
I know,
installed too.
it just, it
it
seems
just
like they're
doesn't
missing it.
Connect.
Well, I think Tom said it best early on in the meeting where nobody pays attention to signs.
They don't.
So the more the signs, the more
Stop
less they pay
signs.
attention.
Yes,
Traffic lights, they just, it's
just for
optional. Yeah, Okay,
And language, English isn't the first language for a lot of the people that are traveling around here. I mean, I'm hearing more and more of it from the suppliers that I deal with Penske. And they say, yeah, he says, we need interpreters for this, we need people to come in, they need to know how to read the sign.
I have a question, Spencer.
Mhm.
Even though people ignore signs over them frequently, is there a process in place where we routinely drive around the city and identify signs that are hidden by trees? Because I see 3 or 4 of them around the city right now. I hate to be complaining every time I see one, but it would seem to me that there would be a process in place maybe after the growing season where you cut back those branches that are blocking school signs and so forth.
When it comes to sign visibility maintenance, if I had unlimited resources, yes, there would be that happening. We try to do it when we can, but a good majority of them are more of a complaint based. So if you see them, please call them in.
Could we as a committee
Absolutely,
identify those that we see as
absolutely.
we travel?
By
about the
all
city?
means, Tom, drive around.
can we
town,
put a
write
work
all
order
that.
in?
Tom, you got your first work order.
That's what they do with home
You
building.
just got
But-
volunteer.
The other thing too is, we do try to, even if we do identify them, the language that we have to go off of isn't the greatest when it comes to going and just cutting people's trees. So typically it's, put a door knocker or a door hanger on the person's door, give them a week, and then we try to contact them again to where it's like, hey, if you don't trim your tree, then we're going to. The problem that we've run into is if we just go and do it, then we've got a very upset customer that likes to come after the city saying that you destroyed my tree, you did this or that, and it really, the policy has come down to that we don't cut private property until it's made contact with the homeowner, or if it goes through code enforcement for some sort of abatement issue.
If I, as a private citizen, knocked on a door and asked permission, I would be okay.
As long as you're not angry.
I don't know if I can answer that one for you, Tom.
Sorry about the question.
No, if you do see those signs, please let us know, because I do want those open and visible, because if
Particularly
they're
the
not,
school signs.
yes.
You know, some people absorb those, you know.
yes,
absolutely.
My teenage drivers notice those too. Mom, the sign's blocked.
yeah.
So they're aware. Yeah. Okay, anything else? Okay, I guess meeting adjourned.
Good job, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Hey, well, this is a challenging thing.